So I have a couple of excuses for why I haven't finished this rather nice looking strat shaped guitar with the elm top. One is an ongoing excuse for just why I tend to be quite, well, not necessarily disorganized, but why I find it hard to stay focused on one project and why I have so many things going on at once. For years I've had that kind of issue, along with other symptoms that were fairly obvious to me and to, well, people who know me. we would laugh at just how apparent it was. And I got diagnosed, I was going to say last year, but it's 2025 now. Got diagnosed in 2023 with ADHD, which was not a surprise to anyone. Yes, so that just makes projects in general not difficult to do. I do get them done. I get lots of them done, but it takes me a long time because I have lots going on at the same time, and as much as I would rather sometimes not do it that way and just focus on one thing, sometimes it gets away on me, as it has on this case. The other excuse has to do with these tuners. They're quite nice tuners, nothing wrong with them, but they're involved in the story of why, the ongoing story of why. Do you remember some time ago I made what I thought was quite a nice Strat guitar? The only guitar I've made that has a tremolo, actually. Yeah, I like that guitar. And how do I arrange the story? So I made a nice neck for that guitar, but then I did the routing for the tremolo in the wrong place, which meant that this neck, this one here actually, this 25.5-inch scale Strat style neck would no longer work for it. So I built a different neck for that, 24.75-inch scale neck, and I made that work. And I took the original tuners that I had already drilled for, that's the crucial part, on this headstock, and I just drilled the new headstock and put those in, and all was well. I knew, of course, that I would need the same sort of vintage tuners for this neck eventually, so I ordered some, thinking that they were exactly the same, but they're not. The dimensions are ever so slightly different on these, and so they don't fit onto this neck. So I got to that part of the build, as you will see, and realized that I couldn't install the tuners. So I've ordered a different type of tuner. That's going to cause another delay. I don't like delays, but anyway, I've got other projects going on, as always. And here's where I got to in this one, and it's quite nice. There's a really, I think, quite beautiful teak oil finish on this guitar now. Yeah, and I wired it up and it's basically working. Just watch the video, see what happens. Once you've applied oil or any kind of finish to a guitar, well, it's then a bit late. If you spot an area that you should have sanded and there are little marks on it, I mean, it's not quite too late, but fixing it requires a lot more effort because you're going to have to remove finish to do that. So now is the time. Now is the time to be sure that you're happy enough with the state of the wood. Any marks that you don't want there, get rid of them, go over the whole body several times, and make sure that any scratches that would bother you later are eliminated. Teak oil. I've used it before, but not on a guitar. I'm using it now because I liked the results that I got on another woodworking project. Do you know what teak oil is? There's no such thing as a teak, well, I was going to say there's no such thing as a teak tree. There is, but there's no such thing as anything called teak that produces teak oil. That's not why it has that name. It's so named because it's commonly used on outdoor furniture, which could be made from teak. So it's oil for putting on teak. But of course you can put it on whatever you like. It's a blend of oils. It's, well, from what I can tell, it's always a blend of linseed oil and tung oil, and whatever else goes into the mix will depend on the manufacturer. I'm not even sure what's inside this one. I'll see if there are ingredients here, but I would imagine people are pretty cagey about protecting their secrets. No, I can't see any ingredients on here. Nope. But it might contain some additional type of varnish, like polyurethane or something else. It will probably contain some solvents, maybe some spirits. I don't know. But I do know that I really like the look of it. So first I'll do the top down to the binding. When that is fully dry, I'll flip it over and do the back, the sides. And I want to apply quite a few coats. I want it to get a bit darker. So maybe 6 or 7 coats or more. We'll see how we go. There are no rules, there's just do what you like. Oh, actually I'll stop just now. See, because I haven't yet drilled a hole for the wire to go from the bridge into the pickup cavity. That won't take a moment. Let's get a bit of oil on there. Get in there. Depending on how quickly this dries, I may get, I don't know, maybe 10 coats on today. And then I imagine that will be enough, but as I said, we will see. It's just a matter of continuing until it looks the way that I want it to look, but we're off to a good start. So I've applied 2 coats, but I'm going to have to take some remedial action. I don't know how clearly you can see it, but there are some lines, straight lines running down the guitar body. They're not grain lines, they run across grain lines in some cases. There must be, they have to be machine lines of some kind. Like when I put this thing, I must have, because it's been a long time since I built this body, I must have put it through the drum sander at some point, because those are not natural lines. But I am a little bit perplexed because I've sanded this top numerous times with the random orbital sander. So those lines really shouldn't be there. But they are. They clearly are. And I'm spotting them. So an owner of this guitar would likewise spot them. You've got to do it right. I'm going all the way back to 80 grit, so I am definitely removing any lines that were there. Right, I have sanded all the way up to 240. In fact, I've used these ceramic sanding discs which get worn out over time, so that's going to be slightly finer than 240. I really can't see any lines there, but I couldn't easily see them before either, until after I put the oil on. So I just hope hope that that's done the trick. I'm scrutinizing that area as I reapply oil, just to do my best to ensure that I can't see any unwanted lines. I'll come back in a few minutes, wipe off any excess, and then just double check for any unwanted sanding lines, and then I'll just continue. Yeah, as I say, don't know how many coats I will apply. I will just keep applying them until I like it. I'm wiping off the excess from coat number 5, and I think that will do us. That's reaching the sort of darkness and depth that I was going for. It's not just going to continually get darker and darker as I add more. I think we're kind of reaching the point where this is what I wanted it to look like. I'll let this sit overnight to fully dry, and then I'll flip it over and do the back. Just to make the neck a little bit smoother, and to give it a nice surface consistency that I guess is somewhere between satin and matte, which is great for a neck. I'm wet sanding it very gently with a piece of 2000 grit wet and dry paper. Very gently indeed. This will just take off any tiny little nibs, any little bits of dust, and there are a variety of products that are basically called scratch and swirl remover or something similar. I'm using the turtle wax one. I've used it before and I know that it works quite well. Now you're not going to get a particularly shiny result just by using the 2000 grit paper and this, and that's completely fine. You're not going for a particularly shiny result. It's just going to have a satin-ish sheen on the surface. While a finish that's not too shiny I think does look nice, the real point is that it feels good. Oh, it's like butter. Actually no, people say butter, and butter has become a cliche that means smooth. It feels nothing like butter, but it feels smooth. Imagine if it felt like butter, you wouldn't want that. Merry Christmas from Monster Guitars. Today is the 25th of December, Christmas Day. So what am I doing in my workshop? Well, I'm relaxing. This morning our family exchanged gifts and had a yummy Christmas breakfast. There is underway preparation for a late sumptuous Christmas feast for lunch. So we're doing all those things, but just now a few of us are having, most of us actually, are having some time out, and this is how I take time out. So we're getting close to the end of the finishing process. I've already started scuffing it, but what you can see if you examine this is that there are some streak marks, some imperfections on the surface where I put this teak oil on very thick to build up a coat. So now what I want to do is make it all nice and smooth and uniform before putting on the final very thin coat once I've got a nice flat smooth platform to work with. Just wiping off any dust because I do all sorts of other woodwork in this workshop. Okay, now you can use synthetic steel wool, and if this was a water-based finish, that would probably be my preference, and that's just because if you go using steel on a water-based finish, it's always possible that you'll get a piece of steel embedded somewhere and the water-based finish will cause things to rust. So I'm just using superfine steel wool. The grade is quadruple 0, very fine. I suppose 000 would be okay because you're going to put another coat of oil over it, but I've got 000. And once this is cured, I will give it a buff with that scratch and swirl remover. Okay, that will be all for Christmas Day. It'll be too late by the time you watch this video, of course, but I do hope your Christmas Day was at least as good as mine, which is going rather well so far. I'll be back soon to work on this, but I'm not really signing off. Why am I doing that? That's my goodbye thing. I'll be back soon in this video. Wiring is not as bad as it used to be in terms of how much I enjoy it, but it's still not ever going to be one of my favourite tasks, so this is just to say I did it. Given that I'm not a huge fan of wiring, I'm always pleased when I get it right so that I don't have to go in and have another go. So the switch is all the way up, which is the neck position. Why is that not? Oh no, it is. I was hitting it with the wrong thing. Okay, and both coils of the humbucker are working. Now, I've got my coil splitting switch, my mini toggle, and now only one coil is working, which is good. Put it back so that both coils are working. Middle position, everything should be on. It's not very loud, but yes, it is working. I've got a dodgy cable. So initially I thought nothing was working. I'll turn it up. And now bridge position, nothing from here, all from the P90. Volume, I'll turn it down. Oh, the volume appears to not be having any effect. Bother! Why would I tap that one? That's not on anyway. That's not good. What about the tone? Does that do anything? Yeah, the tone sounds like it's working, but the volume isn't. I'll have to inspect the wiring on the volume, and if it's not the wiring, I'll just have to replace the pot. Annoying! Okay, I'll have a look at that. I've decided to put the neck on and the tuners on so that I can then attach the pickup frames, by aligning them with a couple of strings that I'll put on, and then that'll make it easier to do the electronics, because then when I flip the guitar body over, the pickups won't want to flop everywhere. So that's my contorted reason for doing this. The original tuners were also vintage style, but they had some very subtle differences. I may have made the fatal mistake of just assuming that they would line up with the holes, but I hope they do, because what an absolute pain it will be to try to take those bushings out. No, I think I may have to admit defeat here. There's just a subtle difference in the dimensions of these tuners from the last ones. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world. You know, with significant effort I can get those bushings out and just drill the hole slightly bigger and put some modern Strat style tuners in there. I may need to do that. Bother. Well, I got them out. I used a bolt from behind and tapped the end of the bolt with a hammer and pushed them out carefully after clamping the neck in place with a rag on it to make sure it didn't get damaged. I guess that's no real big problem. I mean, I'll never get those tuners onto this headstock, but I have another guitar that needs some tuners and it's not drilled yet, so that's okay. I'll still use the tuners. I just don't like delays, and this is a delay because now I'm going to have to order some more tuners. I don't keep stocks of tuners because I'm not that rich.